It's time to turn digital transformation from buzzword into reality. In the recent years, it seemed like everywhere you go, you hear about digital transformation. It became the buzzword of the decade. It's only in the last 2 years, since the pandemic started, that this notion has evolved from a buzzword joke to a critical and accelerating fact. But what is exactly digital transformation for the construction industry? Why is it difficult? How and when to get started? In this module, I'm going to share my thoughts about the what, why, how, and when of digital transformation in construction. Next, I'm going to quickly go over BIM as the foundation of digitalization. And finally, provide some insights about BIM adoption around the world and in North Macedonia. Before I proceed any further, let's look at the current situation in the construction on a global scale. The construction industry has more than 100 million jobs worldwide, accounting for around 6% of global GDP. The scale of the global construction market is constantly expanding. According to market research data, the size of the construction market amounted to $7 trillion in 2021, and it is expected to reach 14 trillion in 2030. The revenue of the global construction industry is expected to grow steadily over the next decade. In 2030, it's projected to be more than twice as big as it was in 2020. With these projections, construction's for sure the engine of global economic growth in this decade. Now, what is digital transformation in construction? For construction, digital transformation means harnessing the power of digital technologies to build faster and smarter, making operations more efficient, productive, and safe, while at the same time improving sustainability, reducing carbon emissions, and finally, building a better world. Digitalization in the construction industry is the use of digital tools and technologies in planning, design, construction, and management of the built environment. It requires hardware, software, and competent professionals. Let's first look at the challenges the construction industry is facing right now. High risk involved in the construction process, too much waste is produced, construction is a slow process, referring to the time from project start to project end, slow adaptation to new technologies, many hazards, the industry is fragmented. When you consider all the risk, it has low profit, but also big potential. There's a shortage of skilled labor, and of course, a shortage of digital skills. So, why is it that construction has such a difficult time joining the digital revolution? I think that huge part of it is just the reluctance to change, and how can this really help me today kind of attitude. Or even more importantly, I think there's a lingering question in people's minds about where to even start. Let's look at the other obstacles of utilizing technology in construction. Software and hardware can be high-priced for individuals and small businesses. There's a risk of privacy and security issues, as well as other technical difficulties. Training and harnessing a continuous learning mindset is also an issue. Competency in digital tools nowadays requires a mindset of lifelong learning. Reskilling, upskilling, because softwares and technologies are evolving all the time. Transforming construction means more than introducing modern technologies to the industry. For a digital transformation to be successful, executives, managers, leaders in the industry must start with a clear definition of how digital will create value for the business. They must spend as much time, if not more, on operational change as they spend on technology. Technology, correctly incorporated, has the effect of rippling through and improving interrelated processes. This requires assessing the current state of a business, strategizing for the future state, and then mapping a journey to the future. When is the right time? The time is now. The future is created today. Research suggests that the global construction sector decreased by 3% in 2020. It's the worst decline since the 2008 global financial crisis. But the problems didn't stop there. Today, projects have resumed, but many are being impacted by global supply chain disruptions, worker shortages, and skyrocketing material prices. These issues are set to continue in the foreseeable future. If there was ever a time for construction to embrace digital transformation, it would be now. As sites begin to reopen and projects ramp up, emerging technologies will be key to the industry's recovery. Businesses willing to use technology to transform how they work for the future and optimizing digital skills to become more efficient will be sure to stay ahead of the competition and outlast the pandemic disruptions. More than that, driving efficiency is all about improving an industry that fuels the global economy by all measures. Limited resources, growing demands, evolving expectations. These new challenges and realities are creating huge possibilities for ag companies. Technology is helping them to work more efficiently and more responsibly to build cities and the future in a smarter way. And it all starts with BIM. BIM is the holistic process of creating and managing information for a built asset. Based on an intelligent model supported on a cloud platform, BIM integrates structured, multidisciplinary data from planning, design, building, and operations. This data enables architects, engineers, contractors, owners, operators to collaborate remotely to create and manage projects in a smarter way. BIM also generates insights that empower decision-making and accelerate better project outcomes. Furthermore, with design, construction, and operational data, BIM produces a dynamic, up-to-date digital representation of a physical asset. This digital twin enables informed decision-making across the entire life cycle of a project. With all that being said, we can confidently say that BIM is the foundation of a digital transformation in the construction industry. The world around us is becoming technologically advanced every day. With increasing urbanization and smart cities gaining momentum, all the major countries around the globe have started their digital journey in construction. Let's take a look at how different countries across the globe are progressing into BIM adoption. The United Kingdom represents the gold standard when it comes to BIM. The UK's position as a global BIM leader started with the government's 2011 construction strategy. Currently, more than 70% of industry professionals are using BIM. So what is the story behind this uptake in the UK? Historically, the UK's construction sector has struggled with productivity and efficiency. So the government was keen to improve how the sector works. The strategy for achieving this involved setting a target of BIM Level 2 usage in all government projects. In 2011, the new policy mandated that BIM Level 2 had to be used on all projects by 2016. Upgrading from BIM Level 2 to BIM Level 3. In 2016, the government announced that they now expected the industry to upgrade from BIM Level 2 to BIM Level 3 by 2020. The UK's approach to BIM has placed UK as a global leader in the digital transformation of the sector. And by encouraging the sector to go digital, it has kick-started even more exciting innovations too. BIM was developed in the United States in the early 70s. The first description of a virtual model of a building was presented in a famous publication by Charles Eastman. But its first real implementation across the world started in the 90s. As early as 2003, the General Services Administration, responsible for the federal government procurement, established its national 3D, 4D BIM program, which mandated that BIM will be used on many kinds of public buildings. Even though the United States were the pioneers to get their hands on BIM development and adoption, BIM isn't mandated on a national level yet, though there are steps at the local level to increase BIM use. In 2010, for example, Wisconsin became the first state to require BIM on publicly funded projects with a budget over $5 million. Despite having no government mandates, today the use of BIM in the United States is close to being the norm. BIM implementation in the United States is simply based between contractor and the client. France is on the roadmap to digitalize its construction sector, and it has also developed BIM standards for infrastructure project works. BIM became popular in France in 2006-2007, but only within a limited number of professions, mainly architects and designers. The first projects began to be implemented around 2010. In 2014, they initiated by developing 500,000 houses using BIM. They have also allocated funds of around 20 million euros to enhance the construction industry and the digitalization. In the future, implementation of BIM will be mandatory in public projects in France. Their initiative of the Digital Transition Plan aims at achieving sustainability and optimization of costs. The application will result in the steady growth of the economy by adding value benefits such as environmentally, socially, and safeguarding small to medium-sized enterprises. Scandinavian region, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden were the first ones to get their hands on BIM adoption. Mandates for public projects are in place in these countries. They are one of the global leaders in BIM adoption and implementation. The Construction Authority in Singapore has implemented BIM on all the public projects since 2015. Singapore government has allocated a total fund of 250 million for successful BIM implementation. A significant focus has been given to BIM for Singapore to digitalize the industry. The Building and Construction Authority, CORNET, had implemented BIM e-submission in 2015. They have made it mandatory to adopt BIM for all the projects greater than 5,000 square meters. Singapore's construction industry has shown increase of productivity because of the implementation of BIM, of course. China, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, United Arab Emirates, and lots of other countries have adopted guidelines, standards, but have no regulation. Despite that, most of the owners, public and private contractors, architects, and so on, recognize the powers of BIM, and 50 to 70% of them are already using BIM. BIM is happening, BIM is real, and is here to stay. Those were just a couple of examples, but there are many countries who are moving forward to this new process, allowing better design, better construction, and better management. You better get ready for it. If you don't, you will play catch-up with the competition. We come to our reality check. A joint research conducted in North Macedonia in September 2021 provides an insight into the current attitude of professionals in the sector towards BIM adoption and implementation, identified through a conducted national survey. According to the findings of the survey, it has been identified that BIM is still in a premature level of implementation in North Macedonia. Although there are individual successful examples, the sector is not quite prepared, and the whole picture has to be created with careful planning and activating stakeholders of all levels of the construction sector, and even more importantly, the relevant authorities and market actors. The survey results give a clear picture of where the focus should be in order to achieve successful introduction and acceptance of BIM practice in Macedonia. Three major barriers that were detected through the survey are missing standards and guidelines, lack of BIM training, insufficient requests from clients, no demand for BIM design. Transformation towards BIM as a new technology, as a new standard and methodology for executing construction in all phases requires a strategic plan. In order to achieve BIM's full adoption, enforcement by the government is needed. The research also proposed a roadmap for BIM adoption aimed at triggering the attention of the responsible public and government authorities to be more proactive toward pushing the digitalization of the national construction sector forward in order to keep pace with developed countries and global development. Showing successful examples, promoting benefits, and changing the culture of traditional construction are only some of the measures that guarantee change of perception and eagerness for embracing the positive changes. However, don't let this finding discourage you from building a future-proof career in BIM. If you are like me, excited about the future, always looking for opportunities to learn and aiming at the global market, now is the time to start enhancing your digital skills.